the forgotten Titan Prometheus. Before there were Olympians, there were Titans, gods of sky, sea, and earth, ancient and vast. Among them one stood apart, not for his power, not for his wrath, but for his defiance. His name was Prometheus, the firebringer, the rebel god, the one who dared to steal from Zeus himself. But why did he do it? What did it cost him? And why do we still whisper his name when we speak of rebellion? This is the forgotten story of the Titan who challenged the gods. Prometheus means forethought. Unlike his brutish Titan brothers, he was clever, sharp as lightning, cunning as a fox. When the gods and Titans went to war, the legendary Titanomachy, Prometheus chose the winning side, the Olympians. It wasn't loyalty that guided him. It was strategy. He knew the Titans were doomed. So he fought alongside Zeus, helping bring down his own kind. And in return, he expected gratitude, respect, maybe even a voice in Olympus. But the gods don't reward foresight, they fear it. Prometheus, once useful, became inconvenient. He was too wise, too curious. He asked questions the gods didn't like answering. And worst of all, he still cared about humans. Back then, mortals were little more than crude clay, shapeless, voiceless, useless. The gods laughed at them, abandoned them, let them crawl in darkness. But Prometheus saw something else. He saw potential. According to myth, it was Prometheus who shaped humanity from mud. With trembling hands, he formed them in the image of the gods, upright, thoughtful, yearning. Then he gave them breath, life, curiosity. But the world he gave them was cruel, cold, filled with beasts and storms. And so Prometheus broke the one law the gods had sworn never to bend. He gave mankind fire, not metaphor, not symbol, actual divine flame stolen from the heavens. In Olympus, fire wasn't just a tool, it was a sacred force, a living essence guarded in the forges of Hephaestus, the god of blacksmiths and flame. It danced in eternal braziers, whispered secrets to the gods, and could forge both weapons and worlds. It belonged only to the divine, and Zeus had made one rule crystal clear: let mortals grovel in darkness. They were never meant to rival the gods. But Prometheus saw things differently. He watched them struggle, these fragile, trembling creatures he had shaped from clay. They cowered in caves, shivered through endless nights, their fingers numb, their bellies empty, their lives nothing more than suffering strung together by fear. And so, he made a choice. By nightfall, Prometheus climbed the sacred slopes of Olympus. He passed silent statues and sleeping beasts. Not even Hermes, the messenger god, noticed his ascent. He slipped into the forge of Hephaestus, where the fires burned hottest. There, in the heart of divine flame, Prometheus reached into the blaze. He didn't flinch. He captured the flame, coaxed it into a hollow stalk of fennel, an herb that could smolder without burning. A trick only he would know. And like a shadow, he disappeared into the mortal world. When the first spark touched earth, the air changed. Flame danced in human hands. It licked wood and bone. It lit up the night. And for the first time in history, darkness had an end. With fire came transformation. No longer did humans huddle in fear. They cooked, they forged. They protected themselves. They dreamed of more. Fire became myth, memory, and monument. Prometheus had not just given them warmth. He had given them power. He had made them more than clay. But the gods were watching. When Zeus saw the flickers of firelight on the mountains, he knew there could be no forgiveness. Not for this. To Zeus, this was not a gift. It was betrayal. Fire was a weapon, a revolution, a divine inheritance handed to those he considered beneath him. In that moment, a single truth echoed through Olympus. Prometheus had created a rival species, and for that Zeus would make him suffer. Endlessly. There was no trial, no jury, no last words. Only a sentence issued from Olympus in a voice like thunder. Prometheus would be punished not for failure, but for defiance. He had stolen from the gods. He had uplifted mortals. And worst of all, he had made Zeus look weak. That could not stand. The punishment had to be legendary, eternal, unforgettable, something that would echo through history and burn fear into the hearts of all who dared defy the gods. Prometheus was seized by the agents of Olympus, perhaps by Kratos and Baia, the personifications of strength and force, unfeeling, unstoppable. They dragged him across the lands of the earth, through blistering winds and sharp rock, up to the desolate edges of the world, the Caucasus Mountains, a place where no god walked, where the air was thin, where the sun never stayed for long. There he was chained to the face of a jagged cliff, arms spread wide, wrists pierced by celestial iron forged by Hephaestus himself. The chains shimmered with divine magic. They could not break. They would not loosen. And then the eagle came. Not an ordinary bird. This was a monster sent by Zeus, a divine predator with a wingspan that could blot out the sun and talons like spears. Each day it would descend from the clouds, shrieking through the mountain winds. And with brutal precision it would tear into Prometheus's flesh, ripping open his side, tearing out his liver, feasting while he screamed. Then as the day bled into night, the eagle would vanish. The stars would turn overhead, and Prometheus's body, divine and immortal, would regenerate. By dawn, the eagle would return. It happened again and again and again, day after day, year after year, century after century, and there was no rest, no reprieve, only pain, regrowth, and more pain. But Prometheus never broke. He never screamed for mercy, never begged Zeus for forgiveness, never recanted the crime of helping humanity. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon, his jaw set with fury and resolve. And in his mind he repeated the one thing that kept him going. They still have the fire. Because even as he bled, he knew the mortals below were building, learning, surviving, using the gift he had given them. His suffering became their foundation. He was the price of progress. And he paid it willingly. That's the part most forget. He didn't cry out. He didn't plead for mercy. He never said he was wrong. Day after day, century after century, Prometheus endured. Eyes fixed on the horizon, watching the world he helped shape, even as he was torn apart. And the world changed. Humans built fires, forged tools, raised cities. They learned, fought, dreamed. They became something new. Every spark, every forge, every flicker of rebellion bore his mark. And still the gods kept him chained. But Zeus had more than revenge in mind. Prometheus knew something, a secret prophecy, a vision of the future. One day a child of Zeus would rise and overthrow him just as Zeus had overthrown Cronus. Only Prometheus knew the name. So the torture wasn't just punishment. It was a threat, a warning, a demand. "Speak," Zeus must have said countless times. "Tell me who it is. Tell me how I fall." But Prometheus said nothing, even as blood spilled from his side, even as the eagle came again and again. He held his silence. Because truth, like fire, is not given, it is earned. Centuries passed. The world changed. Olympus grew arrogant. Mortals grew bold. And then one day a new figure appeared, not a god, not a titan, but a hero, Heracles, son of Zeus, half man, half divine. On his journey of labors, he came to the mountains. He saw the chained figure, the eagle, the blood, and he acted. With a single arrow, Heracles killed the eagle. The screech echoed across eternity, and Prometheus was free. The chains fell. The wound stopped bleeding. The rebel stood once more, but the cost remained. He could never return to Olympus, never undo what had been done, but maybe, just maybe, he didn't want to. Prometheus never ruled, never sought worship, never built temples. But he shaped us in every myth of rebellion, every whisper of forbidden knowledge, every soul who dares to ask why his fire burns. He is the patron of defiance, of progress, of suffering for what you believe in, not because it's easy, but because it matters. In the myths, he's called a trickster, a fool, a criminal, but in truth, he's something else entirely. A god who gave everything for the species he created. A titan who looked at humanity not with scorn, but with hope. We live in the warmth of his fire. We dream in the light he gave us. And every time we challenge the unjust, every time we reach higher, think deeper, or burn brighter, we honor him, the firebringer, the unbowed Prometheus. If this story left a mark on you, consider subscribing. There are more forgotten legends, more ancient voices waiting to be heard. And remember, every myth holds a mirror to us. Sometimes what we see is fire.